Greetings and welcome to another chapter of the show. In today's chapter, we're going to be talking about Tim Burton and which of his movies are the most goth. You know, he's come out with a lot of movies since the 80s, I think, right? We're ranking his top five, his top five movies as most goth to least goth, or the other way around. You get it. Mm-hmm. Without further ado, let's just jump right in. The very first that we've got on our palette is Dark Shadows.
Yes.
I want to talk about Dark Shadows for a second.
Okay.
So, have you seen Dark Shadows?
Yes.
What did you think?
I mean, it was interesting. It was, I wouldn't say it was the greatest movie I've ever seen, but it was all right. I mean, I wasn't upset that I paid to see it, so.
Right. And of course, iconic Johnny Depp reprising his Tim Burton collaboration.
Doing his annual Tim Burton movie so he can...
I would say Dark Shadows definitely is our number 5 spot.
Yes.
And that's because it's got a crap ton of Gothic themes in it. It not only is it based off of Dark Shadows, but... I mean, you look at the characters in it, and you're like, okay, well, we've got vampires, we got
witches, we got werewolves, we got ghosts,
and not to mention
the Tim Burton classic,
right? And if I'm not mistaken, is Ava Green in Dark Shadows as the witch? I can't remember because
I could not tell you the cast off the top of my head.
Okay, yeah,
I know Johnny Depp is the vampire, and. Yeah, that's all I have to say. I think maybe Michelle Pfeiffer is another one of the key characters. I think.
Let me see. Dark Shadows. If I'm not mistaken, I'm pretty sure that Ava Green plays the witch, which is cool because she reprised her role later in Miss Peregrine's School. And I am right. I'm right. Ava Green.
Okay.
And you know what? Michelle Pfeiffer is in it. Helena Bonham Carter's in it.
Of
so
course.
Yeah, got a lot of people. Chloe Grace Moretz, she's in it.
I remember seeing Michelle Pfeiffer was in it. I just, for the life of me, could not think which character was she.
Right, I know, right? And then especially for a movie that came out in 2012? It was 12 years old.
Wow, over a decade ago. Geez.
I know. It started making us feel old.
My poor knees.
I know, for real.
Well, I think it's only going to get worse as we go throughout this list because I'm pretty sure this.
Oh, got it. Yeah, it goes
this is
even
the most
further
recent
back.
one. Yeah, this is the most recent of his movies that we have on our little list here.
It's funny because when we were creating the list, I considered having Miss Peregrine's as like the number 5, but I was like, no, Dark Shadow is definitely a little bit more gothy. Just because I like the movie doesn't mean it's goth.
Right. That was one thing I was going to ask you when we started.
Right.
Is this going to be a quality tier list, or is this going to be a how goth is it?
Right, because honestly,
and of course for this show, I probably should have known, but just for the sake of clarity.
Right. And it's funny because I'm not the hugest fan of Dark Shadows. I didn't think it was the greatest movie that Tim Burton's
I'm pretty sure it didn't do very well in the box office. It's 2012, It was over a decade ago. I don't remember vividly, but I'm pretty sure it was not too well received.
I don't think it was well received, and if I'm to be honest, I don't even really enjoy the movie too much. I think it
was definitely a movie.
Yeah, it was a movie. Johnny Depp was Johnny Depp, but as far as comparison to other Tim Burton movies, not as good.
I definitely think a big portion of this comedy was meant to be. It's, if you took someone from whatever time Johnny Depp's character is from, the 1800s, whatever,
right,
and you stuck them in the 1970s, and it's how it's that it was the Thor. It's that how much fun can we have with this fish out of water type thing, where it's oh, he's not in the world he's used to. That's funny.
Yeah,
they're talking about weed. He's like, "Oh, I was stoned," and he means, of course, actually literally being stoned. But they're
right.
But I feel that was probably the biggest thing for the movie was they were trying how how many times can we beat this horse until it's not funny anymore?
Right, exactly. And again, comparing it to his other movies with the Gothic tones, Gothic themes, this definitely is above a lot of his other films. Like,
yes,
one,
it's a good baseline for us to start with for our purposes.
And I have to compare it because there's no comparing it upwards on our list, right? It's only comparing it downwards. So like I have to talk about stuff like Alice in Wonderland, which I mean was dark for an Alice in Wonderland story, but not exactly Gothic in the traditional sense.
It was definitely our honorable mention for this list. It was like if you were gonna have a number 6, it would have been that.
Right. And even comparing it to like Willy Wonka, Wonka is a good. I think Willy Wonka is a good movie. Like Wonka, I thought that was a good movie, but it's not exactly Gothic,
right? Yeah, it's a decent Tim Burton movie. Just it's not, for again the purposes of our show, it's not
right. And like something I really enjoy about Johnny Depp, is he's so versatile, but one of the greatest things he does is be goth. Like
just put him in white makeup and push him in front of the camera. He'll give you an performance. Yeah.
So
I mean, really, that's what it was. I mean, for these 3 picks, him in Dark Shadows, him in Alice in Wonderland, him in Charlie and the Chocolate Factory. Put him in white makeup. Put him in front of the camera. All right, Johnny, go ahead.
Right. Okay, let's move on to another Johnny Depp movie. Let's move on to our number 4.
This is not a Johnny Depp list. This is
you're right. This is.
I mean, I could give you credit because a lot of these do feature Johnny Depp, and
because I was about to say like they're Tim Burton movies, but let's head on to another one starring Johnny Depp.
Yeah. It could put them together at this point anyway. But
right.
I think the only one of the ones on our list actually does not feature.
Yeah, there's only one.
Anyway, but yes, number 4.
The next one. What's number 4?
Number 4 is one that we've had show up on our show a couple times. It is the Tale of Sweeney Todd, the Demon Barber of Fleet Street.
Ooh.
And another classic Tim Burton film starring Johnny Depp and Helena Bonham Carter. So, I mean, again, already ticking the boxes there.
Right, the regulars.
It's set in, old-timey London, which is, again, a very Gothic feeling. Everything is very dreary, dark. It's just not a happy place to be.
Right.
Probably smells pretty bad.
Why would we rank this higher than Dark Shadows?
I mean, I would probably say there's probably more death in it, which is one of the things. It's a tale of revenge. Selfishly, it's also the basis of the Black Veil Brides album, so that gets bonus points for me.
I would say definitely it's the dark, very dark tone and very pale tone. Everything's kind of washed out, kind of like my camera right here. Like I'm a lot more tan than my camera lets on. But that's how I felt like Sweeney Todd was shot. A lot of it was like super pale, and which is cool. I think that's a cool touch. And then of course we're looking at the Demon Barber of Fleet Street. This man literally cutting people
with a near Quentin Tarantino level of blood.
yeah. Quentin Tarantino does use a lot of blood, and Tim Burton really went overboard with it on that movie.
Yeah, with this one he said, "Hey, let's go that way."
It's funny, little sidetrack, but Tim Burton doesn't use a lot of blood, does he?
No, because a lot of his movies tend to be, PG-13.
Yeah.
So, I mean, you're limited with how much you can actually show as far as death goes.
I never even thought about that until like this very moment. That the only like super violent movie that Tim Burton's come out with was Sweeney Todd.
Yeah. I mean, again, they're not on our list, but even the Batman ones he did, yes, people get beat up, but there's never like actual bloody death.
There's only two deaths in that entire franchise, the 2 Batman movies from Tim Burton books. It was when Batman came out and stuck a time bomb on a henchman and then threw him down a hole and then it exploded. That's death number 1. And number 2...
But even then with that one, it's not like you saw body parts.
Right, you didn't see anything. The only other death that I can think of is Christopher Walken dying in Batman Returns. Like getting electrocuted, you know.
Well, I guess you could also say, or was that a Tim Burton or was that a Michael Schumacher one where it was the Penguin?
That was Tim Burton. That's the one. That's what I'm talking about. Is Batman Returns. Christopher Walken at the end, just like Catwoman, like electrocutes him. You know. But I'm
saying Danny DeVito getting dragged off by the Penguins was kind of creepy.
Oh yes. I mean, creepy, definitely. That's a good movie.
Right.
That's a good.
But yeah, again, as far as gruesome death, it's not definitely tamer than anything you'd see in Sweeney Todd.
Right. The Sweeney Todd level is just wild.
Cranked up to 11.
Yeah. Like starting at 2. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like, how do you do that? But the reason why we'd rank Sweeney Todd above Dark Shadows, even though Dark Shadows has your vampires, it's got your witches, it's got your regulars, so does Sweeney Todd, but Sweeney Todd takes it a little bit further and is a little less light of a tone. Actually, it's a 180. It's super
right.
dark, you know?
Right, where Dark Shadows is a comedy about, very gothic things. This is a drama.
Right.
Like, it's not trying to be funny. This is a very dark world that we're living in, or Sweeney Todd is living in, rather.
Well, it's funny that you say that, like, because it's close as you can get to, like, without being horror. It's pretty close to horror,
right?
You know? The only thing that kind of disarms you from the horror of it all is that you're literally watching the killer. You're not watching like the survivors trying to survive the killer,
right? Which is normal how the horror movies go,
right? I mean, because that's scary, you know. You're kind of watching the murderer do his thing,
right? In this case, you know his motivations. You know he's trying to get his daughter back. You know his lost wife. He's trying to get back at the judge and all that. And
which is funny because it's not necessarily scary, but I feel the horror tones. You know, I feel it, but it's not.
Right. And also, just quickly before we move on, the outfits are very gothic.
Should have won an award, something. I think so. Like I think the outfitting in that movie was beyond stellar. Like Tim Burton at his best, you know.
Yes. He knows how to make a good costume, that guy, or rather, he knows how to hire a good.
Right. I was about to say he knows how to hire a good costume designer.
But he knows what when he's directing, he has something in his mind that they execute the idea, but
it's coming.
He knows what he's looking for.
Right. Number 3 is another Johnny Depp movie.
Go figure.
It's Corpse Bride. Corpse Bride. Why would we rank Corpse Bride number 3 above Sweeney Todd and above Dark Shadows? Well, that's because it is literally a gothic animation. It like you don't get more. People want to talk about Nightmare Before Christmas. That's cool and all, but really, it's Corpse Bride.
Which, for the sake of just letting the audience in on the discussions we've had behind the scenes here, I actually learned when we were talking about this that Nightmare Before Christmas is not directed by a Tim Burton movie, which I had thought for my entire life. I mean, his fingerprints are all over it. He was a part of it. He was on the team, making the movie, but actually not directed by him, which was something that I've been Mandela affected on, I guess.
I'm telling you, like, when I learned that Tim Burton hadn't directed that movie, it blew my mind in so many places. Because it's like, well, I grew up my whole life going, I love Tim Burton. I love The Nightmare Before Christmas. And then only to realize,
like, might as well have his signature on it.
Right, yeah. But, like it is one of his movies, in my opinion. That's like a technicality.
It's one of those things where it's like knowledge is what's the thing? Knowledge is saying it's not a Tim Burton movie. Wisdom says it is a Tim Burton movie.
Right, exactly. But Corpse Bride, on the other hand, wow, what a fantastic animation. And if we're talking about Gothic, I mean, we're looking at the dead, we're looking at the afterlife, we're seeing people fall apart. We see the most gloomy kind of character designs. I love it, like Everything's
Best interpretation of the afterlife before what's that? What was that recent movie? Like Encanto or something like that?
Coco?
Might have been.
Remember me.
Yeah.
Don't copyright me.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
But just like that portrayal of the afterlife and the underworld,
Right.
where everyone is just essentially happy dancing skeleton characters.
It's crazy. I love it so much.
Again, it's very Tim Burton, which is why it's higher on this list than anything else. Well, not anything else, but it's higher than the previous two.
Yeah, we're getting into our number 1 and number 2. But I just want to comment on Corpse Bride a little bit more. So
it's still due some more respect.
Right. Because like number 3, you can't be top 3 and us just like go past it, you know?
Yeah.
We're looking at some of grade A. Like next to Frankenweenie and Nightmare Before Christmas, looking at grade A stop action motion. It's just I miss those types of movies, you know? Like especially the Corpse Bride feel like those Gothic movies you could just pop in as somebody who's pretty Gothic, and you yourself somebody who's pretty Gothic. Like we just want to pop something in and just kind of have it in the background. Corpse Bride is perfect.
Exactly. If you want to sit down and dedicate yourself to a couple scenes, that's fine, but you could just let it play. The atmosphere will, surround the room.
Yeah. And what a great score too. But like I expect nothing less from Danny Elfman, like one of the best composers in Hollywood.
Again, he was on the Nightmare Before Christmas, so
yeah. Did you know that he was in a rock band before he was
Boingo Boingo?
Boingo Boingo. Yeah. Yep. Craziness.
They were big influence on Avenged Sevenfold's "A Little Piece of Heaven" song. For those
that
of you
makes
out,
so much sense.
For those of you out there, if you don't know the Avenged Sevenfold, "A Little Piece of Heaven," educate yourself. It is a fantastic song. It's very dark. If you're any type of goth or alternative, you will enjoy this song. That is my guarantee.
That's awesome. I second that because I've been listening to A7X for like ever. All right. So number 2 and number 1, we're kind of confused. Okay, so we're going to talk about it for a second. And I'm just going to tell you both, right? And we're going to try and figure this out, Will. You and I. What's number 2? What's number 1? And here's the 2 movies. We have Edward Scissorhands. We have Beetlejuice. It's a hard toss.
Yes.
I mean,
2 iconic movies, Gothic-wise and just in general.
Right.
2 incredible characters.
Oh my God! Like on one hand, you've got the human exorcist himself. On the other hand, you have the sweetest Gothic
sweet boy,
sweet boy. A sweet boy who never wanted to hurt nobody, who ended up. Anyways,
anyway,
so we've got these 2 movies, character movies too.
Yes,
Beetlejuice, Scissorhands. So okay, let's try and figure it out. Which one goes above the other?
I'm of the opinion Beetlejuice is more gothic than Edward Scissorhands. Okay, in my opinion.
Okay. Because I would like to second your opinion, just being honest. Okay. I also think it is more Gothic than Edward Scissorhands, but we have a dilemma. What makes Edward Scissorhands more Gothic than Corpse Bride? Right?
I mean, again, it is my opinion. I feel that, again, we're talking about, a lot of the characters in these movies.
Right.
Corpse Bride's main character, Johnny Depp, is Victor?
Yes, I believe so.
Let's go with it. Yeah, if we're wrong, tell us in the comments.
Right. Watch it be like Johnny.
Or like Steve or something.
Right.
But the character Victor, he is just a normal guy who, again, not to spoil the movie for you, but it's been out for over a decade now. You should have seen it by now.
It's been out for like 2 decades now, so you should have seen it by now.
Yeah. But he's just a normal guy who happens to say his vows in the forest and gets married to, a goth girl comes up from the ground and accepts his marriage proposal, but he never intended for any of this to happen. So I feel that the main character of the story, being Victor in this case versus Edward and Edward Scissorhands, I feel the main character is more gothic in this case. So I feel that's what gives it the edge more, in my opinion.
Okay, so my opinion aligns very much so with yours. But there's I've got a different angle on it.
Okay, what you got?
It's not that one character is more goth than the other, even though it is, right? Because it definitely is. It's the fact that it gets the edge over Corpse Bride because Edward Scissorhands is the epitome of what happens to goth kids all across the world.
Yes.
You know what I mean? It is a story of here's a misfit that no one understands, that no one gets. And is used and tried to be changed into something that he's not. And he will always just be Edward Scissorhand. You know? I think that's like, for me, that's the takeaway for the movie as far as like the gothic tone. Because look at the rest of the movie. I mean, I watched it recently. I watch it often. But like I watched it recently.
A lot of bright colors, a very vibrant.
The entire movie is bright colors. The only thing that was painted in the background was the house on the hill.
Yes.
You know what I mean? And then, of course, with that being said, the only person to wear black in the movie is...
Or any kind of dark color is the police officer and Edward.
Edward Scissorhands. Right. So yes, I would say it's more goth because it hits home a little bit more. While Corpse Bride is just a gothic animation... Edward Scissorhands.
It's a good story.
Yeah.
Also, even as you mentioned, it's just about living a goth life, even to the point of there's a character, one of the wives or mothers on the neighborhood, you know, go around saying, Satan is with this boy. Don't stay away from him. If you're a goth or even vaguely alternative type person, chances are you have had someone say that about you.
Oh, 100%. Like,
which we both know from experience, but I'm saying, you know, to anyone else out there, chances are if you wear black clothes, you wear the makeup, do all that, chances are you've had someone say, do you worship the devil?
And it goes even more shallow than that. Like, that goes pretty deep, like, you know, wearing makeup and whatnot. That's goth. But even like metalheads are called devil worshippers. You know, oh, you listen to that screaming music.
All that rock music, that's the devil.
You must be praying to the devil after you listen to that. Like, I don't see myself actually sitting down, taking the time to open the Satanic Bible, trying to find the verse that I want to repeat, you know what I mean, after I listen to some Suicide Silence.
I mean, I haven't sacrificed any goats lately. I don't know about you, so.
You know, and yeah. But Edward Scissorhands, he went through that, you know, and I love it because it's a story of moving on and being okay with yourself.
Right.
Because what happened? He ran home. When he ran home, he had to face that adversity that had entered his home. He took care of it, and Winona Ryder kind of like took the fall for everybody. Yeah, I mean, she didn't take the fall, but she kind of like
she cleared his name essentially. He's like, oh yeah, he's dead.
Right.
And no one investigated. No one said.
Right. No one decided to go up there.
Yeah. No one said, hey, you know what? Let's do some crime scene investigating and actually examine the body and make sure. There's not just a rotting corpse up on this house.
What is this, the 1990s? And yet they had no detectives. None whatsoever. The police only showed up when he tried to break into somebody's house. Otherwise, murder?
Yeah. Not even murder. It's just, it was like a self-defense killing.
Right, exactly. Like
the guy, I forget. Did he actually shoot him or did he just try to shoot him?
I know for a fact that he hit him over the head, or like he got hit on the head or some shit with all
the roof came down on him.
Right, and then Eddie got real fucking mad, took his claw hands and stuck it in the guy. Yeah. Wasn't that guy from 16 Candles? Anyways,
couldn't tell you offhand. If you say he is, I'll believe you.
Yeah. I'm pretty sure he was the guy from Breakfast Club? No. It was one of those Rat Pack movies, you know what I mean? Like Brat Pack. Like, it was crazy to see him all grown up and doing Edward Scissorhands, you know? But that's number 2. And why does Beetlejuice get number 1?
Again, talking about the characters, I feel that while Edward Scissorhands on his own by himself is a more gothic character, the entire movie of Beetlejuice
the entire
is more
feel.
gothic. Because again, I mean, yes, he is the main character, but if you take Edward Scissorhands out of the movie, that's not gothic at all.
Oh yeah, it turns into a regular ass movie. Like not regular, but like
it might as well be a romantic comedy at that point. But
period.
The entirety of the movie of, I forget, it's been a while since I've actually watched it. I should probably rewatch Beetlejuice since the second one's coming out later this year. The couple that dies, they're dealing with death and the afterlife and struggling. They don't want their house to be sold or to new people, and dealing with that grieving process. And then again, we have a goth character in what's her name, Lydia Dietz.
Yes, Lydia.
She is so obviously a gothic character.
Oh, it's stupid goth.
That's another question. Who, to pose to our audience watching, to all the baby bats watching, who is more goth, Edward Scissorhands or Lydia Dietz?
Yeah, that's a good question, because
tell us below in the comments.
Yeah, we want to know what you think, because in my opinion, I think Lydia Dietz is a little bit more gothic. In my opinion, I think she embodies goth better than Eddie. Ed was
Eddie. Do you know him on a personal basis?
He
get a Christmas card from you this year?
Right. Just it's a little postcard of scissors. He's a misfit. He is the unfinished creation of a genius inventor. He wasn't there listening to what I mean? Like, you can obviously tell Lydia Dietz listens to goth music. It's
one of those things, like we said in one of our previous episodes, there's a difference between being a gothic icon and being a goth.
Right, exactly.
Where, like we said, 100%. Dracula and various vampire figures may or may not be gothic icons,
right?
Not necessarily gothic themselves.
Right, exactly. And a great example is another Tim Burton piece, Batman. Batman's a great gothic icon. He's literally the superhero of Gotham City. He literally wears all black. But I wouldn't go as far as to say, yeah, Batman's goth. Goth?
Yeah, no.
I don't think so.
Absolutely not. Bruce Wayne, especially.
Bruce Wayne? Catch Bruce Wayne doing goth shit. It ain't gonna happen. You know what I mean? He's a bachelor. He's a party animal. He's everything that you'd expect from a young billionaire. Especially one that runs Gotham City like he does.
But on the complete opposite end of that spectrum, we have Beetlejuice.
Right. Which is the entire movie is everything that you could ever want, like being a gothic person. Let's talk about some gothic themes. We're looking at black and white snake monsters that live in the sand. We're looking at the black and white pinstripe. The best in the game.
Iconic outfit.
Iconic. Lydia Dietz. Delia or whatever.
Winona Ryder.
It was Catherine O'Hara.
Catherine O'Hara, yes.
She's pretty gothic herself.
Artist.
I think the dad was like the only one that wasn't really gothic.
And actually, again, a little piece of trivia here. When they're doing the seance near the end of the movie, there's a clip from that actually features in a Motionless in White song that I didn't even realize until I went back and recently rewatched this. As the living, now the dead come alive.
Oh my God, you're right.
It's in the Motionless in White song Dead AF that when I heard it in the movie, it just clicked for me because I'm like, oh, that's what that sound bite's from.
Oh, that's so cool.
So, don't get me wrong, Beetlejuice would have been my number one pick anyway, but it additionally gave it a couple extra bonus points to be at the top of my list.
Yeah, and especially I'm gonna be honest at this point, a modern day goth band like Motionless in White. to be able to feature
Goth
something
rock,
from
goth
Beetlejuice.
metal.
Yeah. Like maybe if this is sidetracking again, but maybe not goth music, but definitely a goth band.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And there you are, toting it around. Look, I got nothing today.
Exactly.
I got a blank black t-shirt. Goodness. So many great things to say about Beetlejuice. And with the next movie coming up, Beetlejuice. Look, I've said it 3 times. Where is he?
Say his name, he appears.
Right. I'm so excited to see Michael Keaton reprise such an iconic role for himself. You know what I mean? That would make in like 3 years he's reprised 2 Tim Burton roles.
Yeah, that's right. He did recently redo his Batman, and now he's redoing Beetlejuice.
Yeah, I mean, we want to get nuts, so let's get nuts.
Yeah.
Shoot, this wasn't about Batman. I'm sorry, guys. This is about Beetlejuice.
I mean, it's another Tim Burton franchise.
Right.
Not franchise. There's only 2 movies.
Right.
Tim Burton projects. You get the idea.
Look, I will say this: if none of this, if Beetlejuice isn't real enough for you, watch the trailer. He'll make it real enough for you. Guys, what else do I say about Beetlejuice? There's so much to say, so much to harp on about how much we like it. You know what I mean?
Was one of your favorite Tim Burton movies on our list? Do you have one that you would maybe move around? What's your order of this? Do we get some things right, some things wrong? What movies did we miss out on for this list? Let us know in the comments as well.
Right. And guys, of course, you already know this is Does It Goth? It's where we talk about things that could or could not be goth, and Tim Burton is definitely goth.
Certified.
So guys, we thank you for listening, and to wrap things up, we ask that you, if you are listening to us on Spotify or Apple Music or Apple Podcasts, please give us a 5-star rating if you feel like we've earned it, and leave us a review.
You can find all of our social media links in the description below, including links to our Discord, our Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and Twitch. So with all that said, stay tuned for the next episode, and stay Gothic, YouTube.